very, very big guest off rip. We're freshmen, so we just started this. We have, who the heck are you is our question.
Who the heck am I?
You introduce yourself.
I am Stephen Bonnell, a.k.a. Destiny, on YouTube, previously on Twitch, and currently on Instagram as well. And Destiny Debates on TikTok. This is your first episode.
It's our first, because we've just been playing music the last 2 weeks, because we're kind of shy to talk on the mic, especially like with all the rules and stuff.
And we've had some guests falling out in between.
Yeah, we had one guest that didn't work out, just some YouTuber from our high school, like swag guy.
Some YouTuber, he thought he was too cool for the show, and now Destiny's on. He could have been the first episode, and people would have been scrolling back, and that guy messed up.
That's crazy, because... Yeah, it's just hard to get people in College Station. That's the big part. Because we know a lot of, like, small artists. Because that was the one thing. It's like, we'll get rappers on the show. Like, random people we meet in Houston that we met at shows. But,
how far is the drive from here to Houston?
Hour and a half. We were from Houston. I mean, I drive there on the weekends home often. But it is a big drive.
Once you start to hit, like, an hour to, like, 3 hours, it's, like, that perfect range of, like, if you go out, there's going to be a lot of downtime. But it's, like, your whole day gone. And it kind of sucks,
Uh-huh. How do you like campus, or how's it here compared to other campuses you've been?
I'm gonna be honest. I just like to stay inside and play video games all day, so I don't really care.
You don't know what to compare it to, or
it's a huge campus. I mean, I've walked around a bit, and it's like a whole city out here.
No, it's really big.
Anything stand out to you over here?
Somebody was giving me the backstory on that statue. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that. Apparently, some people like it, some people hate it.
Oh, it's like a Confederate guy, right?
Yeah, Confederate guy. Yeah,
I've heard about.
Apparently, he helped your school a lot, and apparently, he helped the South a lot. So,
Well, yeah.
What are you gonna do? But I got that backstory, and then I walked around campus a bit, obviously, going from where I was over there to down here in the student center, and
what made you? Because I remember. So this is an insane. So I've been watching forever. I've been watching since I was in 8th grade. Actually, I've been watching for a really long time. Like I've watched almost every single YouTube video since like 2017. I remember during the summer. Just watching Shane, like you probably never remember this. Like I just saw some guy talk about like you going to UT and you going to A&M. Some just dude on stream, I think maybe a done or a message bringing up the idea. And the first thing I thought was like, bro, if he comes to A&M this year, like I have to get him on the show. Like I have to see if I can set something up for him. Like that was like always the first thing I thought. And like it's pretty cool that like it went through. Like how long was the process to setting up this sort of like the change of my mind stuff here at UT?
From start to finish, probably like 3 months. Not too bad.
Did you obviously you got like a license or permission to like be set up in front of the academic plaza, like you went through all that?
Oh yeah, I hope so, yeah. Okay. Listen, I'm a business owner, so my main responsibility is delegating, so.
We're business majors, we're still
Well, there you go. Well, the right answer is I got a guy to do that for me, so, yeah. But yeah, I think we got all the stuff cleared ahead of time. The most important part is to try to find like a student org that will sponsor you to come out and kind of do stuff, because that's the easiest way to get on campus. And yeah, I should know this. The Augie Dems, I believe. Aggie Dems? Not Augie. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Aggie Dems. I think we're the ones that sponsored us out here. Bridge Texas USA were the ones that sponsored us out to UT. That's so we've been on campus doing our thing. Pretty cool.
That's nice. And you were doing this campus thing because I remember you were talking about going to Dartmouth and you saw like these segregated dorms. I remember like you just talking about your experience, or like Pepperdine with that one. The fake university, PragerU, that thing, or talking about that, like how, what made you want to like do all that? It just seems like such a hassle. Like,
I think that one of the biggest problems we have in the country today is we're doing really good at segregating ourselves into these like ideological bubbles, and people are really bad at penetrating those bubbles for anything more than content. So it seems like people's goals are, if I am going to go to the other side, it's just to rile them up as much as possible, farm some content off of them, and then come back and kind of like high-five my group. And I guess kind of my goal is I want to show that you can engage with people and have political dialogue and discourse with people that are vastly different than you in political opinion. And I'm kind of looking for different ways to do that. And one of the ways that I've found is like this college project that Steven Crowder, I don't know if I'd say he started it, but he definitely popularized it.
A lot of conservatives did the whole college thing. I mean, but mostly because it's easy dunks at the time. Yeah.
Shapiro is cringe. When you're going up
He's
and you're
coming
like,
November 1st. We're going to see him.
When you're like screaming at people that are just in line to ask questions, I don't like that. I like the Steven Crowder format more. I like what he does. I don't like him.
And the way he does it.
This was my first go at that. We attempted to do this into colleges, and it went really cool. We have a lot of notes for next time. Definitely want to do it again. And
Nice.
Awesome. Anything stand out today, specifically in those conversations you had?
There were some pretty interesting people I remember hearing.
Yeah, I had a couple of AFers show up, America First guys, who are kind of like a pretty far right group online show up. And obviously we have huge ideological disagreements, but I'm kind of glad they came.
No, that's because that was one thing I was worried about, like, because I saw that you were doing more liberal talking points here, or progressive talking points, but like it's still a college campus. I kind of felt that, like, especially I was there in the morning and kind of seeing the first couple people, like you guys kind of just agreed on most things. Like it felt like.
Yeah, and I think it's good too because like these guys are pretty far right. Like I would say far enough right that most people wouldn't engage them in conversation. So it was fun to like have the conversation, show that you can have that conversation, and be able to agree on a couple things, and then have like vast disagreements without it getting like super heated and without anybody trying to like throw anybody off of campus or call security or start screaming at each other. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me and you kind of agree on most things when talking about like politics, because like most of my political beliefs have kind of been like transformed kind of by you, because like I went through that typical like 6th, 7th grade like 12, 11-year-old like watching like Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro. The first video I ever watched of you was you watching this guy called No Bull. I can't finish his name, but
the No BS guy.
Yeah, that guy. That was a guy who I used to be a big fan of, like for whatever reason, especially for all the horrible things he would say about like Muslim people. And I was just such like a pick me at the time, I guess. Like I was like whatever, but watching that made me realize like I should probably like open up and get out of this like echo chamber. And I think that's really what, like, I think like I think I was still there 8th grade and 9th grade. I think I did kind of just do that thing where you jump to the other side and do the same thing. But I think for the past years, I think like especially my junior year of high school, I kind of taught myself like politics is boring. Like it's not supposed to be like a football team where like you're playing a game. And I think that's something that's like, I think that's a really important message that you put out that not a lot of people put out there.
Yeah,
a lot of people thrive off of it usually.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be boring, but you can't view it as like team sports because
I expect it to be boring.
Yeah.
I try not to set my expectations too high. Yeah. How do you think of I guess we'll go into more music stuff. So I disagree with you a lot about a lot of your music takes. I think that's the one thing where I remember on stream like a week ago. Again, you probably just don't remember this. I don't really watch your stuff that much now because I'm in college, but I'll just pick up your streamer once in a while. I don't really watch the videos anymore. But you were watching this trombone player, and this chatter was like, "This trombone player is filthy," and you're watching, it was like, he's not that filthy.
He was okay.
And then you showed a piano player, and it really, because I used to play saxophone. I know a little bit of piano. I played tenor sax from 6th to freshman year, and then I quit over a really stupid reason.
Okay.
That was like one of the big regrets of quitting that. I love music. But it was, it kind of, it felt like you kind of, I feel, and especially like, I remember a long time ago you were talking about death grips, like in this old video, your take on experimental music, stuff like that. And it kind of gave me this idea that you have a very restrictive perspective in music, I feel like.
No, I think I have a huge range. If you listen to like one or two opinions, you might come across saying that I just really don't like death grips, okay? Most of that
Okay,
music,
you might not like it.
Yeah.
Okay, like, for example, like I'm wearing a Cemetery shirt. Like, this guy's music sucks, but I love him because the way that I perceive music is like, I kind of think of it more as like how you would perceive like a humanities course, like when you're learning English. Like, you're just appreciating like these things all come together and it comes out sonically this way. And that's how like every music class has been for me. And to go specifically to like death grips, like I remember you said like something, it's bad because like when you do something experimental, you should do one experimental thing on top of something that's widely
I think the issue is that people were linking me like the least accessible death grip song.
Yeah,
that's
like, true. They probably just want your reaction.
And it sounded like garbage. Like the Guillotine song is like, I can't hear this. This is not.
Some of his old songs aged well. Where like now it's a little bit more like, because music has gotten more and more extreme. I think even like in pop music, like you have like these big artists who are like hyper pop artists in quotes, because that definition has changed a lot. But it's super. With the trombone guy. So this is why I think you kind of just looked at it as because I know what it's like to be a saxophone player. Like you don't have to work to make noise as a saxophone player. Like you need your embouchure, you need to make sure you're tuned in right, blow through your nose, spin.
Are you like a music major?
No, I love music, and I watch a lot of your streams. And I just study music. I'm a business major. I do accounting because my parents.
Okay, you're breaking one of the cardinal rules of woodwind. Okay.
What?
Brass players are the ones that go to us and say, all you have to do is push buttons. You don't even need an earphone. Okay.
But it's true as a saxophone player.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to use it. It's like self-hatred. You don't use this against our own kind.
Because I'm being honest.
No, not in front of. There might be brass players listening to this, like thinking like, wow, finally they admit it that they don't have to have any skill to make any of their notes come out. Okay. Meanwhile, these guys play like, can you play like an octave? And they're like,
They're trying to.
and they came like in the note. I was like, wow, dude, amazing instrument. Good job for you.
No,
like, show me how many songs you can play in your mouthpiece. So impressive, bro. Like, good for you. And then they're like opening their spit valves, leaking all over the place. Like,
you can do like the
Gross.
flitter, like the tonguing where like you flick it. Flutter tongue. You can do
double
like
tongue, triple tongue. Yeah.
You can do like the really high pitch if you change your embouchure. I know there's like stuff like that with saxophone you can do, and I think even clarinet.
Sure.
Clarinet's even harder. But
well, clarinet's hard because it's so boring, and you've got to practice such a boring instrument for so long, and it's like, oh my god, you can't even vibrato. It's such a
you can't do. That's what I love about saxophone is like it's like you're singing into the instrument.
Being serious, the cool thing about the saxophone, not to favor my instrument obviously because I sound biased, but the cool thing about the saxophone, in my opinion, is that it combines all of the like rich, deep sound of a brass instrument with all of the flexibility of a woodwind mouthpiece.
It's a modern,
you've got
modern instrument.
the saxophone. I mean, what do people always say in wind ensemble or in a high school band, right? To a saxophone player, play quieter, play quieter, play.
Yeah,
the note it carries far, but it's
so
beautiful, especially with the right mouthpiece. It's such a warm, deep, awesome sound, almost like a violin or viola. Such a good sound, good vibrato, rich vibrato. Very versatile instrument. You can play fast, you can play long, you can play beautiful. It's just, what an awesome instrument. But anyway,
I will say, I think a trombone can peak better. It's harder, but I've heard because
well, you're young,
because for example that video I was watching that video and I was literally mesmerized like, and then you showed the piano video and it's like, okay, I can tell like you appreciate more like virtuosic, like being
not virtuosic,
being on tempo, being able to like to play fast while playing on key, like obviously like just playing fast
just cool ideas.
But
okay, let me also.
Playing some of those notes are hard.
No, if you want to do like a super ultra deep serious conversation, the trombone player was really good, of course.
I think he was more skillful than that piano player.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Or at very least equally.
Sure, we listen to different things. Technically, if you want to get like really into it, even my criticism of the trombone player was like, oh, he's just playing like blues scaly kind of stuff. That's not even a good criticism because technically you can play only like in a blues scale and still play a really cool solo. I really liked the solo on Lingus for Snarky Puppy because there were a lot of like wacky, wild, and crazy ideas with this like insane background, like both drum kits going, and that was like some high energy, awesome stuff. The trombone player was cool, just like a different style of like music, right? Yeah. Whereas like the Lingus song, that's like a very contemporary, like very cool, very hip piece, and the other guy was playing like almost sounded like kind of like a big band jazz piece. I'd have to go back and check what he was playing exactly. But like, no, I wouldn't. If we're being serious, I'm not going to say one is better or worse than the other, but like definitely very different styles of what's going on.
What do you like so much about Bad Bad Not Good?
I like them because they seemed like a pretty atypical group of jazz people.
More modern, I think.
Yeah, there's this weird thing that happens where jazz is like, if you go into any school, it's like all of these old white dudes that are so incredibly square, and it's so weird because it's like you guys are playing jazz. This is like one of the
least square genre ever.
Yeah, and this is like I remember one of the saddest moments of my life. I went to school at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and I was a horrible student. I feel bad, but we had a saxophone section there, and the teacher at the time was Darren Pettit. He might still be a professor down there. Amazing player, so good, and a cool dude. Very much a saxophone player. You can tell by his attitude, but it's super cool. Our studio had unbelievably good players. I couldn't believe it because I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. It's like whatever. And these guys are such good players, and we had a chance to do like a workshop with. I wish I knew his name, but he's an old like classic. Not classical, but like an old jazz player, old-time jazz player, really good, respected saxophone player. And these guys had a sax quartet, and they went to a workshop, and they played some pieces they'd written in front of them. These guys are so cool, okay? If these guys were performing and you heard it as like a normal person, you'd be like, oh, that's like a professional sax group, right? And if you were a college student, you heard them be like, these guys are either professional or really good college players. And when they finished playing their pieces in front of this guy, he tore them to shreds. And he said it was wacky, chaotic. He didn't hear any of it. He thought it was just horrible, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, these are the people that you want like doing jazz for modern day stuff. You know, you don't want did you ever play any jazz pieces in high school or anything?
Yeah, I was in jazz band in my 8th grade where like we had what's the song? It's like da 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 da. It's like a classic blues song. We played you soloed on the B flat blues. I like two solos of song.
You don't by chance know the name of a writer called Mike Tomeo, do you?
I'm not very well versed. I've lost my
he writes like a lot of like literature for like high school, college bands, big band stuff, and he had this complaint that it's so hard to write music for jazz today for like colleges and high schools to play because people just want to play the same old standards over and over and over again. And it's just sad because I look at I would make fun of in my younger days. I would still do it. I make fun of people that spend their whole life learning Mozart and Beethoven because like, dude, okay, we played that music like 150 years ago. Stop.
Yeah.
Play something different. Do something new. And now you go into like modern jazz departments and it's like, what's the most hip thing you've got? And it's like, listen to me play Take 5, in like 9 or something, or listen to me like play, break out the real book and I can show you like. I was like, dude, do something new. And the Bad Bad Not Good guys are like, they seem like cool dudes. They're like young, they're hip, and they want to do jazz, but they're very contemporary. And I super respect that. I love that because there should be more.
And they're able to branch off into like other artists and genres like Thundercat, Kendrick Lamar.
And do is it Ghostface Killer? They did the live backing. Yeah, that's so cool. That's such an awesome. Yeah, jazz should be like a very like it can be made modern and contemporary and stuff. And there's no reason that like white people have to tread on the graves of like old black artists and just sit in that world all day and just do jazz and like do something new and cool with it. Like because the black people that moved on from jazz are now sampling that stuff and using it like hip hop and rap and stuff. And it's like, okay, we'll do something cool. Like stop just playing the old stuff that nobody cares about anymore. I don't need to hear any more classics. No more standards. But no, I mean like it's good to play old stuff. But yeah, I like more modern takes on things. So Snarky Puppy and Bad Bad Not Good are super awesome, cool jazz groups. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, I like it's really nice. Like again, because I'm just into like the more cultural aspect of it. Like I like listening to a lot of like foreign countries like play Western music. So whether it's Japan, whether it's like Ethiopia, whether these like random Middle East, like these Egyptian artists that like my dad knows from like the 80s. Like listening to that stuff is like really cool. I think jazz is like one of the like. I think it's one of the first like world-taking genres that like I think brought everyone together. I think it's like it's super unique. I don't think there's maybe like hip hop today because like you'll see like random Korean artists doing hip hop. Like that's just because we're in a more globalized world anyways. Yeah. But I think back then I think it set like a precedent for like how much people just loved it because you pick up on it, you can never really be wrong because it's just a pure raw form of like self-expression, or it can be, it can be like the more like it's just very diverse because it can be like the more like structured, more like you follow these chords, blah, stuff like that. How do you feel about Kanye West?
I love every single Kanye West album.
Me too.
I don't like any of Ye's music though.
You don't like the album Ye? The album Ye, Life of Pablo 1, Ye 2. And I know it's because I'm young, and I will agree.
You don't even know who Kanye West is.
I will ignore.
Kanye West to me is the guy that grew and put out.
He's with the high-pitched squeaky.
My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. That was the apex of Kanye West, and then
the album's overrated. I agree with Anthony Fantana on that. Because he gives the album a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, because he doesn't like the choruses and the songs are too long.
I think they're catchy. I don't think that's the issue, but I think obviously I wasn't there at that time, so I can't understand like how impactful that album was. Obviously, it's a very impactful album.
It's nice because that album sat at. Kanye West had a very strange life. I mean, we see today he continues to have a strange life.
Yeah, he's crazy.
But he had this balance of being. Can I say, "Oh my God"? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or is it, "Oh my gosh"? Okay. Yeah. He had this like balance of like, he was probably autistic or socially challenged. Like he.
I remember you saying that. You're confirming he's definitely like he's on the spectrum
somewhere. But very driven, very hard worker, very good ear. Managed to get rapping down. Wasn't initially a good rapper, but he got that down. And then he made these like 3 awesome albums, his 3 college albums. Mom died, unfortunately, took a break, made 808s, which is another awesome album, totally different, but an awesome album.
That's like my favorite old album.
Yeah, it's a sick album. And then he comes back and he drops My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is just this incredibly strange, so many long songs.
He was like isolated in Hawaii making it.
Yeah, and it's just there's so many weird songs that are like the guitar solo in Devil in a New Dress. There's so many cool songs on this album. And it was like the perfect balance of him being like incredibly egotistical, but also self-aware. Runaway is like probably one of my favorite songs of all time. It's just like the perfect exemplification of like, I'm a piece of whatever. I'm a whatever. Like I'm just I am. It is who I am, and like I understand, and like it's hard.
Him with the Hennessy, like going to Beyonce, like him just doing what he wants.
Yeah,
like.
and I loved that. Like it was like Kanye turned up to an 11 where he realized that like this is who I am and I'm extreme and I'm extremely difficult to be around and like this is me, and I like that. But now post that album he like dropped off the scale to where he thinks he's actually God.
I think he has an echo. I think it's because he has like a circle of people.
Everywhere.
Yeah, because I know like you were watching that Drinks Champs And I remember,
they're just, like, laughing at
watching the
every crazy
first
thing
one
he
too,
says.
because that's why like he comes back on, and they know it, like they all know it. Like,
Yeah, they're not gonna hurt their cash count.
literally.
But like people like Sway like would challenge Kanye, but then like
Kid Cudi challenged them, like because I know the reason they're beefing is because like he wasn't okay with it, and he's like, oh, you probably established, and he's literally like a conspiracy nut, like he's went insane.
the thing that hurts too is that if you listen to Kanye and you really peel apart what he's saying, he does have a lot of interesting ideas, but he needs
You have
like
to
a
pick it
soundboard.
apart really hard,
And he
yeah,
needs
really
a soundboard
just-
to push back when he's getting a little bit too crazy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that. It's all yes men. But
Yeah,
like, what are you gonna do?
There's nothing holding him back.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could even hold him back though.
Well, I mean there could be, but
Because they try.
Yeah.
There's big guys that try. I mean, like he's been banned a lot of stuff, and
yeah, but that
doesn't
sucks.
work.
That's just gonna reinforce his opinion.
Yeah.
That everyone's against him, right?
No, yeah, that a deplatformer definitely. I think we both agree. I think you definitely agree.
Corporation right now, and that's
Very against the system, because I remember this big thing is like you were saying is like you're either for the system or against it today, like in America. Like there is no like well we can maybe trust the system to like there's not really any nuance there or any middle ground. It's very much like you're like a shill or.
Yeah, it seems to be, yeah.
You're a freedom
Which is where all the
fighter.
political lines are drawn today, too. It's like pro or anti-establishment. That is a stronger political indicator than like being a Democrat or Republican, right?
And talking about like I guess My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Whenever I listen to like a genre that's like up and coming, like new, maybe more underground, I have like this test where because I see Kanye as like an artist that was able to turn hip hop into like a very multifaceted genre where he's able to expand it and basically make like epics. Like when I hear like Pyramids by Frank Ocean, I think that's like the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy of like R&B,
Okay.
where like it's this long song with many parts that all come together, that all tell a message. It becomes like more intelligent, I guess is the best way to describe it. And like I think it's really like, and that's like that is probably the most important part of that album is that that's what it did. Because
It's
now
kind of like concept albums from prog rock.
yeah,
kind of, right? Yeah.
It's like if I listen to like Midwest emo, when I think of like early Midwest emo, it's not trash. Well, it's trashy. Not trash as in it's bad, but I'm very like muffled, just screaming, like playing guitar badly. But then like I'll see like a band like I'm pretty sure they pronounce it Marietta. This is like my favorite, one of my favorite band of all time, where like they've turned that genre and made it basically into their My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Where this album is not long; it's like 35 minutes, but it is like an epic. Like every song is an epic with multiple parts, and it's still able to stay true to that genre. I think the same thing with like hyperpop, where like you have these random like 15, 16-year-old kids during COVID. I'm like listening to these random kids on SoundCloud, making like insane hip hop, like very experimental hip hop music, and then I'll see artists now like Jane Remover or like these artists that like will turn that and make it into basically like again like another like they build up onto it into this like really cool thing. And I will say that is like the one thing I like when there's that song off of Ye, Ghost Town. That's the most that's the most Kanye song ever because it is an epic. Like it isn't like because the other songs in here are kind of short and simple. They're like. It's like there's like a few songs off like Jesus King that are also like short and simple. Like I think all this there's one song on Jesus King that is like another long epic song. You always expect that from Kanye. It's like, oh, that's him going back to his roots. Like that's when I think of Kanye, I always think of that. Was like he had these amazing choruses that were so full. You're like listening to it's like, bro, I've never gotten this feeling from a rap song before. Like a rap song is like you're in the club, like you're just at a house party.
When Jesus Walks came out, what a song! Oh my God.
No,
What a
insane.
great
He
song,
changed.
yeah.
No, like. He's definitely like I mean obviously like respect should be I mean obviously no one denounces respect when it comes to music but
oh man, the King Crimson sample, the 21st century on is it Power?
Just Power yeah.
Is that the name of the song? I think it's Power.
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
Yeah. Man, jeez, what a sample! What a song!
No, I mean obviously his sampling's the best. Let's venture off into okay. How do you feel about Anthony Fantano? Because I want to stay on to music, and then like we'll try to venture into politics a little bit. But I'm not sure.
I don't have strong opinions about him. I think his political opinions are horrible.
Yeah, I know you hate his political opinions, but like musically, like
well, his political opinions even influence his music sometimes. Did you hear? So, J. Cole has a song that he made in response to the woman rapper. Is it No Face? Oh man, I don't remember her name. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I don't know a lot of female rappers. I know like Cardi B. I know like
No Name.
No Name. Yeah. J. Cole made a song. Do you remember the name of the song? Snow on the Bluff.
Some of the
Oh, I do.
Never heard the song?
I remember when that came out.
Yeah. cool song, decent message. Everybody should be able to get on board with it. Fantano tore it apart in the lamest way ever. I couldn't believe I was listening to him.
I feel like he puts his personal
Political
opinions into
Heavily,
his music,
yeah.
definitely.
Which is frustrating.
Which I hate because, I mean, I have very strong opinions about what I think, but, like, whenever I judge art, to me, like, judging art is about, like, they have a concept. Like, it's like you have your thesis statement and how you get to it.
Sure.
So if you're able to, like, show that, then I think it's beautiful art. Whether I think, like, maybe the music, like, the genre of this music, like, I might not be into, like, EDM or whatever, like, this type of music, but, like, I can always appreciate that, like, you're able to do what you want to create. Like, as an artist, you're kind of, like, you can play different, like, meta games where, like, you're always, like, explaining you can either explain yourself, you can explain your explanation, you can, like, I don't know how to describe. I'm trying to describe this in a better way. Like, for example, like the Denma, the dude at Balenciaga. I see a lot of, like, designers, just people who do art, whether it's fashion, because I'm into, like, fashion as well, just as much as music. Just any form of art. Oftentimes, you get artists that are like, well, I don't want to explain my stuff anymore, because you either get it, like, you see the thesis and you see how it matches up, or you don't. And if I explain it to you, well, you probably just didn't like it anyways. Even if I explain it to you, you're still not gonna like it. But it also kind of leads to, like. Because what if an artist is trying to have a certain thesis? Well, you can also pick up different ideas, from this piece of art, which I think is good on its own. But it's also, I mean, that's what I just love about art. Like, you can do so much.
Yeah, of course.
You can do so much
art,
with
right?
it. Yeah, it's never ending. I guess we'll venture into politics.
Yeah.
Kyle Rittenhouse goes to Blinn, I'm pretty sure, which is the community college right here.
Okay.
So you had a big thing about him. I guess, how do you want to, like, what do you want to say about that? Because that was I remember that era. I remember, like, you in Sweden arguing with Vosh. Like, that, like, I remember, like, all of that was pretty crazy. Like,
There was just, like, it was another one of those moments where I try to, like, analyze stuff as it comes out and figure out factually, what's going on. And the Rittenhouse thing was one of those things where when I saw the video that was initially released, I was like, okay, it kind of looks like self-defense, I guess. People got really mad. I looked into more details about it. I was like, okay, now it really seems like self-defense. Then people got into a lot of arguments where basically you just make up whatever you want. I remember, I think that first argument with Vosh, he was saying, like, yeah, he, I saw him empty a whole magazine into a crowd.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think they even might have said that one on CNN. I think somebody said that, and it's like, geez, like, you guys are so, like, if he did that, that would be horrible, but he didn't do that, but you're treating him like he did, and this is kind of weird. And I think that was probably a big breaking moment from a lot of people where they realized that I can be fairly objective, which is good, because there are a lot of conservative or centrist, I guess, or moderate types of people that were viewing me like, oh, he can give, like, decent analysis, and then for a lot of left-leaning people, I think they realized, okay, maybe we've gone a little bit too far here, where people just can't even, like, engage with reality anymore. And yeah, the Rittenhouse stuff was a big kind of watershed moment for me for that. Yeah.
Stuff like that can be, like, pretty scary. I feel like I mean, I could never do what you do, because, like, I mean, even though I do have, like, most of, like, the correct opinions, like even, like, coming here and, like, arguing progressive ideas, like. You, like, did you at UT, did you have, like, anybody, like, get mad at you, get, like, maybe people outside? Because I feel like you always see more combatants when usually there's a conservative person versus a progressive. Like, maybe it's just because also college campus, but I think just in general, it just feels like, I mean, obviously, like, I disagree with the conservative person, but it just, I know that not everyone disagrees with the conservative person because we had Trump for president. Like, obviously, like, in midterm, most likely, like, we're going to switch back heavily Republican, stuff like that. And it kind of feels weird. Like, I'm not sure how, like, we got to that spot. Because it definitely wasn't always like that. Because when you think of history, you always think of, like, primarily very conservative ideas. And whenever, like, a progressive idea came out, it was seen as, like, super radical. And I just, like, what do you think? How do you think, like, that switch happened? Everybody, do you know why it happens? Is it because of the internet? Is it because of...
Yeah, the internet's probably changing a lot of things. I think liberals tend to go into areas that give them more cultural control than conservatives. Like conservatives will cry about having nobody in Hollywood, but, like, for how many years were they saying, like, liberal arts are for losers? Like,
but conservatives used to have a lot in Hollywood. Like, I'll look at the old, like, I think the Grammys is what... No, not the Grammys. That's music. Oscars. Where, like, I remember hearing a story where, like, there was this old Indian lady back in the 70s. Not old, like, she was just, like, beautiful, like, not in, like, Native American lady. I think she was an actress, and she was, like, fighting for, like there was just harm being done. I don't know the specific details, but, like, she was, like, booed, and, like, there's not, like, movements now to, like, I guess, like, reparations for her to, like, because I'm like she was basically blacklisted from the community. Like you always hear like not too long ago, like 20,
Well, like, I mean, like
30, 40
yeah,
years
they
ago,
might
like
be-
it seemed very conservative.
It might
seemed
be
like on the other
conservative
side.
for our time now, but back then it was still probably left of like where the culture was, I would imagine.
You think the average person like in 1978 was like just would have been really upset about a woman like trying to
1978. Well, 1978. This is 14 years after the Civil Rights Act. So yeah, probably
Okay,
actually,
maybe.
right? Like 15 years earlier, black people weren't allowed in white schools, so
Man,
or weren't allowed in a lot of like white dominated spaces.
then maybe it's like my bias because I guess like when you learn about a lot of history back then, I guess you do kind of focus on a lot of like the progressive because those progressive movies are what pushed us to be where we are today. So maybe I think that's why I kind of feel that way maybe because it does seem like I look back and there's so many like really like would have been really progressive ideas say like that just existed back then too like I don't know. Maybe it's just
I
maybe it's
think
just
the
centered
culture
that
has
way.
always been like pretty liberal. Like it's really funny because if I turn on a radio station today and it's a conservative radio show, the intro music is always like these old rock guys. But those old rock guys are all like pretty left leaning too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's kind of funny. Like how many times you heard like a conservative rally where they're playing Bruce Springsteen, the "Born in the USA" song?
Yeah, but that's like a super like not conservative song.
Yeah, it's a dude that gets like shipped off to Vietnam. His like friend dies, and then he comes home and there's no work for him in the cities, and is like ex like a ghost of a town. Yeah, and it's like yeah.
There's a lot of songs like when you think about like Marvin Gaye, and that's why I get the impression that like. But I guess maybe that's just because I'm so heavily focused on music and art, which like liberals have always, progressives have always like kind of like taken over that area.
Yeah, but conservatives need to like encourage their side to do art more.
Yeah, they only
But
do like
always, say it's
classical
all,
stuff. Or,
yeah,
like,
and they say like art's all for losers and you shouldn't do that. It's like okay, well then you can't get mad when you've lost like all the cultural control
Yeah.
like over the next few generations because what do you expect to happen?
you know, art. I mean, art is like because it's like the idea where like science gives you something to do and then like art gives you the reason like gives you a motivation kind of like that's why like for example like technology is like art like when you watch YouTube when you watch things like that
Yeah, people.
these are all
conservatives will say
mediums
stuff
of
like,
art.
"Yeah, like it's just art," or even when you argue for like diversity, people are like, "Oh wow, so you've got like better food," or like, "Oh wow, so you've got like better music," and it's like, dog. Food and music, that's like, first of all, you eat 3 times a day, okay? So food's pretty important.
It's like that
okay?
Chick-fil-A slogan from like the Bible where it's like you eat you have to eat every day to like make it good or whatever. It's like
well,
that.
and like, yeah, culture is like, this is the stuff that gives you a reason to live, you know? Nobody wakes up and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy I get to go be an engineer again today and this is my purpose for life, right? These are the things you do, the jobs that you work so that you have time to pursue fun hobbies afterwards that are largely informed by like liberal arts degrees and culture and stuff like that, you know? And it's not all just engagement with science, technology, engineering, and math day in and day out over and over and over again. I think that stuff is really important, arguably more important, yeah.
That's a big thing that like I've tried to like funnel in and that you preach a lot, which is like balance. Like having really like don't just be a STEM head, don't be like just a comp sci head that codes all day and doesn't shower and doesn't go outside. Like know how to write an email, know how to write an essay, know how to use correct punctuation, like know how to use commas right, like all that stuff. Like yeah, I think that's super. I don't think because our world, like society doesn't really society prefers specialization. Like you're always better off being an engineering major versus like a pure mathematics major because being an engineering major makes you an engineer, which is a specific job that pays well that you can only get into from that degree. While math will obviously get you good paying jobs, like it tends to be more broad. That's why like I was considering business or econ. Well, business is literally the engineering of economics, like stuff like that. Where like theory. Well,
Tell that to an engineer.
yeah, I'll tell. No, I'm talking. I mean, as
I'm
in,
an engineer
I mean,
too.
as in,
I got an MBA. I would say I'm
as
somewhat
in-
of an engineer myself.
I mean, as in theory versus specialization.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but we just.
there's like 3 like there's like a petroleum engineer, chemical engineer that are like tearing their hair out.
But well, I'm gonna do accounting. That's like basically a STEM degree. Okay, like that's pretty hard. It's pretty hard.
Accounting, what is that, like 17 classes on Microsoft Excel or what is it?
Yeah, basically just numbers and you moving numbers this way and that way. That's literally it. Cash flows and all that.
Yeah. Final exam, you got to make a wicked spreadsheet, I'm sure. Yeah.
Final exam is what determines you get a job because you take like a CPA or something like that to even get a job as an accountant. I was gonna ask something and it just completely went over my head.
Well, while we're having
should
downtime,
pitch
we
in.
should play some music.
Yeah, let's play some music. Let's take a bit of a break.
We'll take a little bit of a break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Up next, we got Junior by Kanye West.
All right.
So the first question I wanted to ask you was about, I guess, your career venture in streaming and how that's going for you. Like how do you consider it as like a career? Do you think it's is it because I know it's a very interesting career. It's a lucrative too, in the right spots.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine. I mean, like, it's kind of, in a way, it's a dream job. Like, it's a job that didn't even exist when I was a kid. Like, apparently everybody now, you guys all want to be YouTubers. But when I was in school, well, up until high school, YouTube didn't even exist.
You want to be like a football player when you're a kid, now it's like
Yeah,
YouTubers.
like an astronaut or something. And now they want to be, like, yeah, a Minecraft YouTuber or a Roblox streamer, I guess.
Yeah, you went through like a big, like, I mean, your journey as like being, like, you became independent very early.
Yeah, I think I was the first person to quit his job to go full-time in a streaming professionally.
No, yeah, you've been streaming since like what, like 2010, 9?
Yeah, 2010.
10? Yeah, really early, like, like, you're like the reason everyone has like mechanical keyboards, right? I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, arguably in the beginning because I played StarCraft and I had it was the DOS keyboard, the mechanical keyboard way back in the day, and everybody would listen to my stream and you could hear the clicks in the background, and that like really, I don't know if I'd say I was like the reason why mechanical keyboards are up, but for DOS keyboard I was the reason why people use them, and I probably contributed a bit to them taking off in the beginning, I would imagine, because then a lot of streamers that listened to me and spun off of me obviously really liked mechanical keyboards, so all the big league guys, you know, Double Lift, Iris, all these guys that listened to my stream would buy mechanical keyboards too, and kind of propagated that way.
You're the reason I wanted those like Razer mouse that charge on the mat. I remember you talking about.
Oh, dude, they're so good.
Those seem fine. I never built my PC because it was during like COVID, where like the new stuff came out, the processors and stuff, and they were like impossible to get. So I just quit on that. I never ended up. Thank goodness, because I would not be able to use it now. It would have been a waste of money. But yeah, like, so I guess because like, you know, we're college students. Like I already have friends. I already have a friend who's like already has issues with like paying with tuition, for example, and like now wondering like, is college for him financially? You went through that same decision pretty much, but with music school. Which college? I don't know why I said but. That was kind of disrespectful. But yeah, like, so what do you think your experience working like 2 weeks with 1 day off as a carpet cleaner, how do you think that experience kind of like, do you think like you would ever go back and like, I mean, obviously you were making more, like a ton of money at your casino job, you didn't think you were going to be fired. How do you, like, what is like maybe some motivation for any person here to feel like this is a ton of money? Because you always hear about college isn't for me. You always hear like, don't pay for college, it's a scam, blah blah blah.
Unless you're delusional, like, I don't know, like, college is so good. Like, if you get a degree,
nice. It's nice,
you
yeah.
can't. Nobody can take that from you, having that degree. It's such an important, awesome thing to have. And you know, you'll always find these one-off. First of all, if somebody's made all their money in crypto, you can safely ignore any advice about the world. These guys don't have anything. When you look at all of like the wealthy, rich elite that control the world and all the banks and whatever, blah blah blah, what do the wealthy elite do with their children?
Send them to college. They bribe like
to the best schools ever.
They'll bribe or
Like,
send large donations
and it was
to like
a huge thing.
Harvard.
People were like bribing college to get them in. And then meanwhile, you've got like these people on YouTube that like get lucky because they get like big YouTubers. Like, nobody goes to college. Like, look at these 1 or 2 examples of people that didn't go to college. Like, bro, every rich person in the world wants to send their kids to good schools, right? Look at all the immigrants that come from other countries in the world just to send their kids to amazing schools in the United States. Like, there's a reason why people want to go to college. Those degrees are so valuable. And it says something if you have it. And it's just like, I don't know, man, maybe someday I'll go back and get mine. It's just so cool to like finish school and then have your degree, and then you can take that out with you into the world, and you can never lose that. And it's like a valuable asset for any job you try to get, really, but hopefully for one that's applicable to the degree.
Yeah, and it's definitely like, because like our like from our high school, like we know a lot of people who like might not go the trade route, but they go towards like the high paying hard labor route. That's like very like the construction worker type. Like backbreaking work, because like they're always like, oh well, I'm not really good at school. School isn't really for me. But I always look at it and it's like school. I mean, maybe I'm just not like. I mean, I'm a business major, so I guess it's easy. But maybe like school isn't that hard. I couldn't imagine working like 80-hour weeks. Like you're 18, like, and this is your life for the next 20, 30. I feel like that's harder. I feel like you might as well just go in debt and like do the schoolwork, and
I mean,
you'll have an
it,
easier life.
I mean,
if you can put the money in.
Yeah, it's hard. School's not for everybody. School, I had a really
some
hard
people
time
are
at school.
bad at school. Yeah,
and I'm sure there are other people that have a really hard time at school. Women seem to be doing exceedingly well at school. They might be better students than men, actually.
And average, and not here though, because this is a big engineering school. So
so women can't be engineers.
Well, engineering attracts more men.
No, I know
it's very. It's just, yeah.
But for some people, school is like really hard.
55% men here.
For some people, school is really hard, so I can empathize. But yeah, I mean, like, if you can do it, I just like, I've never, maybe I just haven't, maybe I'm not talking to the right people, but I've never met somebody that's like over 25 who's like, I wish I didn't try so hard in school. Yeah. But I've met so many people that are like, I wish I would have just studied like a little bit more in high school or a little bit more in college. Like, I've met so many of those people, but maybe I'm not talking to enough crypto bros. So.
That was a big thing when like when I'm a senior and like my last college like admission thing came, and it's like, man, like, I should have probably did more work. Like
Yeah.
it always makes me, and it's like it's all like, and I will say it has that having that experience has set me so well for college because I've been on like grind time with my work. Like I've definitely I'm a lot better now than in high school, especially like my freshman or sophomore year. Just
Especially
so much
when you
better
look back,
habits.
because people always make it sound like
It's like it wasn't even that hard.
Exactly.
Like, just don't be lazy.
Yeah, when you think about it as a freshman or a sophomore, you're like, you want me to grind 24/7 on blah blah blah. But then when you're a senior, you're like, man, I wish I would have just done like this club on Fridays.
Bro,
like I wish I would have just
quit
did this
all my
one thing.
extracurriculars.
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret because I'm
Yeah.
applying to
I mean,
colleges. I was in band and soccer freshman year. I quit. I didn't do anything. And like senior, I was like, oh, I'll do student council because I need something on my resume.
Yeah.
And it was so dumb.
And then you look back and it's like, well, what do you have to show for that time? Like I don't know if
I was like-
smoke, you do like random stuff, you play games. It's like, man, I could have just taken like one day a week off to do like some things or some extracurricular or some studied a little bit more on this. I could have done a real math class like AP Calc instead of AP Stats, you know, that kind of stuff.
That's
like,
exactly. I did college algebra instead of AP Calc. I was in AP Calc for a week. I dropped it because I was like, this unit circle is not for me.
And I stuck it out, and now the benefits I've.
Yeah, he doesn't have to take math 142 next. I'm taking it in the winter, so like, it doesn't even
I'm done
matter.
with my-
how much math do you
my
need
math.
for? Oh wait, you're doing accounting.
Well, no, for all business, you just need math 140, 142, which are it's basic. Like we don't.
What is 140? What is it?
It's like basic, like I'm learning math I learned in high school,
It's
like
basically
easy. We're doing
algebra
like
2 and
matrices, like polynomials,
Oh.
linear, very easy. It's not hard at all. It's high school.
You're
math.
not making a good argument for
No,
the engineering
it-
of business
because
right now.
because here compared to other schools, like at UT, the business majors take the same math that all the STEM majors do, but here we take the same math majors that all the social science majors do.
Base?
So,
Okay.
which is awesome. I don't have
Nice.
to worry about that. But yeah, that's nice.
So instead of getting bullied by a bunch of engineers like you would at UT, here you can bully all of the history and English
all the
majors.
kinesiology
Yeah,
majors, all the
there you go.
random stuff that
Nice.
that happen. It's like they're the two easiest math classes on like the base everyone has to take. Yeah, how you're very. Are you kind of like me, where like, for example, like we have friends who are very like conservative. And like I would never like judge you as a person based off of that. I don't really. I mean, maybe
You
like
judge me, it's okay.
some people like some people like some people would argue that like, well, it's because I'm privileged because like their votes. Because I remember like used to argue that like obviously you don't believe this anymore, but like if you vote maybe like something that like might, for example, like what was that act where like with like Mexico where like you can send people who have been born and raised here like back home or something like that.
Oh, the conservative slurway was daisy chain immigration. That's what they would call it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like family where somebody can go, they have
There's
a
a
child,
term
and then you
for
can
it.
sponsor like your family to come?
Yeah, it's something like that. And it was like where like you would argue, well, like if there are conservatives like voting for that, like I think you should probably be able to like fight back like physically or do harm because like they're the way that they're voting is like enacting like kind of violence on
Oh,
you. Like,
you're talking
being
about
forcibly
deporting like
removed.
DACA recipients?
Yeah, I think it's DACA.
Oh,
It stands,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
because I remember it stood for it wasn't NATO because that's something
Yeah.
completely different.
DACA, it's like deferred action for childhood arrivals, I think.
Yeah, I remember like. Because I can see why that argument where like a lot of people are like, well, I don't care about politics, and I go, well, that's because you're just this white privileged dude. And I guess like I can sort of understand that like politics is like at the end of the day, like voting is like your most important like right as an American. But how do you deal with that when you're talking to like somebody who would like probably vote to like probably for something pretty bad that like you probably wouldn't agree with, that probably would hurt people? Like how do you like go and sit down and eat chicken waffles with that person and like just hang out?
I mean, like the reality is that like different things affect different people for different reasons. What a worthless statement. Like we're very like local people. Like most people don't care about foreign policy, for instance,
Yeah.
because unless it's in the news every day, like you don't know any. A lot of Americans don't even leave the country, right? So why are they going to care what's happening in the Middle East or in Eastern Europe? And then also a lot of people just don't intersect with certain systems. Like the more north you are, probably the less you care about like immigration. Whereas if you're down here in Texas, immigration is probably a lot more important to you. You know, depending on what field you work in, you might care about different political issues more. Like I'm sure people that worked in hospitals cared a lot about COVID policy. People that worked on farms probably didn't care as much. So I think that's like an aspect of human existence that you have to understand and accept, that like there's going to be some people with pretty horrible political opinions, but I understand it's because you just don't have like any real engagement with people that your opinions are affecting. It's kind of like when the people that were against like police officers, like they were the big like defund the police, like demonized police officers a lot, and it's like, okay, we probably don't understand the difficulties that go into like being a police officer sometimes. Like it can be a very stressful job.
You could argue that might negatively affect like poor inner city neighborhoods, which probably predominantly affect like black people. You could argue because,
Yeah, sure, it could.
And like in my econ class, like a big thing I learned was that like intention doesn't equal outcome. That's like a big thing. Our econ professor I think Professor Mir is a pretty smart guy. I like him a lot. Though a lot of people hate that class. It's a notoriously like difficult class. But he teaches very intuitively, and he always attaches real world concepts to what we're learning.
That's good.
It's really nice. It's not like the simple formulas like that you would learn in econ like in high school. And yeah, he kind of like this that same idea where like, well, you might want this thing, you might think it does like, so you might do this because it seems like the most obvious answer, but it might end up doing the complete opposite. And like, and rather and like what you say, I remember watching your debate with Richard Wolff.
Oh god.
That is actually so hard to watch. It makes you literally because the big thing about college, like, dude, these are really good professors. These aren't just high school teachers getting paid. Like these are professors getting paid like 6 figures, all have PhDs. These are smart, cool people. Then I see Richard Wolff, like, bro, what do you like? Like, no way. Like, how do you go? Because to get a PhD, you have to argue in front of like a council of other PhDs.
Yeah, defend a thesis.
Yeah,
but you can get like PhDs in like very like esoteric topics. Like
which is his isn't like is it not just in economics?
It's some Marxian stuff.
Oh,
so
Marxian
really,
economics. Okay, so you can argue for Marxian economics.
Yeah, or some other weird thing. Yeah, it just
Yeah, like you're like a big thing that I've taken from you is that like do not moralize everything, and that includes like economic tools, for example, and you can apply that into policy as well. Don't always
or moralize your outcomes, but never your processes.
Yeah, don't
right?
don't
minimum wage. There is no moral argument for minimum wage, but there might be like moral arguments for like how much money should a person have.
Yeah,
in society.
like,
but as soon as you start seeing like 15 an hour is the moral right, well, 12 an hour might actually be better for everybody. But now you can't argue it anymore because you've attached like a moral command to like the 15 an hour thing. You can't even get off it because it seems immoral to even consider otherwise. Yeah, same thing with like, I argue like when it comes to housing and stuff, like we shouldn't have homeless people in the United States. That's horrible. But there's nothing like morally righteous about like rent control or morally righteous about like public housing. These aren't morally good options. They're either effective or ineffective at alleviating homelessness. That's the moral good, is alleviating homelessness or making housing affordable, not the policies that you use to get there. Those are just tools, like hammers or guns.
Yeah. Well, it was a great conversation. I'm super happy we had this.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
This
so
is,
much
I
for
mean,
coming.
I'm the biggest fan ever. This is so cool to have.
Well, cool. Thanks. I appreciate it. If you get Kyle here next, send him my way after. Okay?
Well, 2 guests. Maybe one time you come back.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's the end of the first episode of Who the Heck.
Who the heck was Destiny? We definitely learned a lot who the heck Destiny is.
Yes. We're going to play a couple musics, end out a couple songs, end out the
Musics.
podcast. Thank you all so much.